everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Today we've got John from Kinross Wooden Products with us. John has a very inspiring. He has been working in the furniture field for how many years now, John?
Oh, easy to say 30.
For about 30 years. And well, today he's going to talk to us a bit about his company, but also about the role of circular economy in the recovery from the COVID pandemic. So, John, can you tell us some words, some things about yourself and your business, how you got started and what you're up to?
Okay, well, hi, everybody. I've worked in the furniture industry for the best part of 30 years. I've worked in design, manufacturing, sales, logistics, waste management, all aspects. Just over 20 years ago, my wife and I set up our own consultancy company looking at the environmental impacts of office furniture. So at that stage, we were looking at Forest Stewardship Council, supply chains, various things, and a lot of that work was with the public sector. By about 2002, we first got involved in the question of what do you do with old furniture? And we set up a couple of projects that really looked at reuse as a viable option, and that kind of took off. We won a few awards, and between 2002 2018, our consultancy business really looked at the management of furniture. Mm-hmm. And that worked very much on the principle of you just reused it pretty much as was. You would take desks out of building A, we'd hold on to them, and they would go into building C at a later date. But about 2 years ago, we started to see a real shift in that the furniture that was coming out was no longer going to be suitable to go in as it was. Footprints needed to be smaller. Most of what was coming out was large desks, the big corner units with fixed pedestals or desk high pedestals, and it took up a lot of floor space.
So was that an overall shift for the entire sector then, would you say that?
Pretty much, and it was driven by technology. So the original desks would have a great big cathode ray monitor sitting on it.
Oh, yeah.
To comply with the VDU directive about spacing and ergonomics, you needed a really deep desk. So the corner desk was ideal. But with flat screen technology, no one uses big cathode ray monitors anymore. You don't need the same footprint. And with the pressure on organizations to make better use of their space, they wanted smaller desks. So it was no longer going to be viable to take a big 1800 corner desk out and put it back in. So about 2 years ago, we started to see the shift in the way projects were being planned and recognized that there needed now to be a different service, which wasn't just reusing the product as was. We needed to completely remanufacture. So the product would come out and it would be remanufactured to a new size. And that product had to have the same warranties, guarantees, and service cover that a new product would have. And Kinross Wooden Products Company was our response to that need. The consultancy company wasn't going to run a factory. So we set up a manufacturing business that could take the surplus product, remanufacture it into new product, and then supply that back into the market as a separate entity. And that's where Wooden Products came about. So about 2 years ago, we started looking to set it up. It's been trading now for a year and a bit. We do some other things, but a lot of the core part is really now remanufacturing surplus office furniture to meet smaller footprints. And we've expanded quite significantly in terms of physical size. We've now got a 3,000 square foot factory in rural Kinrossshire. And a lot of the work for the past year has been prototyping. Now we're starting to move, particularly with the COVID pandemic coming in. Whilst it's caused a big stop on a lot of things, it has caused people to start thinking about the way they use their offices. And a lot of it is going to require smaller footprint desk and much greater spacing between the desks. And we're very much involved in that with a couple of local authorities about talking about how they can reuse the existing furniture to meet an entirely new demand. And the best option we can see is remanufacturing.
So basically, although in the previously it was about the smaller monitors, now it is about the social distancing, but the basic premise is the same, that you need smaller furniture in the council buildings.
Yeah, the bigger the desk in the new environment, the bigger the infection area you can get if someone sneezes, coughs, or anything else. If you've got a big 1800 desk, you've got a bigger area that can attract.
That's
The smaller the desk, the easier to clean, but also the smaller the desk, the greater the free space between people. I saw an article that came out and people said you need bigger desks to make sure that people are further apart. But actually that doesn't make any sense at all because the contamination area is increased. Actually, you need the smallest size desk you can cope with and the maximum space between them. So that's going to drive a change. And we're very actively involved with a couple of local authorities in the planning for that as they go forward.
That is something that very few people think of, how, you know, physically the workspace is going to look like. We all think about what new policies we are going to have in place and how it's going to go, but we're not thinking that maybe some things are here to stay. So social distancing might be a reality for a long time, even though some lockdown measures are going to start being lifted. I wanted to ask your opinion on working from home. Do you believe that more people are going to be required or allowed to work from home, and how will that affect the furniture sector?
I think it's very likely that working for home will now actually be an accepted process. A lot of public sector bodies weren't too keen on it. They didn't think it would work. Number of reasons. It requires a lot of IT infrastructure that they didn't necessarily have in place. They were geared up for everyone coming to a set building. Everything from an IT point was focused there. Now what they're going to find is they simply can't have the same number of people in the physical space. So if you look at the local council for us, their main headquarters building has about 850 staff in it at the moment. We'd already had conversations pre-COVID about taking that to 1,000 by making smaller desks. The conversation now is actually it's going to have to go to about 350, 400.
Oh, wow, that's halved, more than half.
Yeah, because now what they're going to have to do is to create much wider corridors, much greater social distancing between people. You've still got the same number of staff.
Yeah.
So you're going to have to work from somewhere. And now that they're about 8 weeks into this, and I talk to them regularly, what they're saying is it's actually working really well. And funny enough, we're every week now getting orders from that public sector body to supply home office desks to their staff.
Really?
Remanufacturing furniture that came out. So we're now doing that. We've had to put in a whole lot of measures in terms of how can we safely deliver it. Our manufacturing site's pretty straightforward. We did that very, very quickly to set up social distancing and effective cleaning processes, and so the production facility can work quite happily. We had to look at then how do you deliver. And we've got those processes sorted. We did the risk assessment, we sorted that out. So now what we can do is deliver the furniture to people's homes. And the way we've built it is it can be self-assembled. So we take it, the one I did yesterday, that is simply taken to their front door, ring the bell, put the component parts with an instruction leaflet. They come out and say, yeah, no bother. If they have any problems, they can phone us. But actually, everyone so far said, no, that's very easy. I can build that.
That's great. And it also reduces a lot of space in the van or whatever you're using. So it's much better.
These are being delivered from a car because of the size they are, can actually fit in a car. So we've got less transport. We have no packaging. Because it's blanket wrapped when we take it in, and we just take it out of the blankets and say, there we are. So you've got no cardboard, no polystyrene, actually traditional blanket wrapping, which you would do for cabinet furniture.
Yeah.
And people just take it in and build the furniture. And actually what's going into their house comes from the stuff that was in their offices. So they're not buying any new furniture, they're simply remanufacturing the old furniture.
So basically, if you have a model that you have the same material, no additional new material, no material goes to the landfill, and also no packaging, no plastic. You just deliver the same materials in another form, so they can be used in another way. You look at the product as a material bank, and then you take that material, do something else with it, deliver it to fulfill a new need without any packaging. That's fantastic from a circular point of view.
It's very much the way we've always had the ethos, and it comes from the fact that my career started in manufacturing. So in manufacturing, you just have your core materials. Now, if you're making new furniture, they arrive in a lorry and it's just big sheets, typically 8 by 4 foot millimeter face chipboard or whatever. And you just have your components, which you then cut and assemble. Remanufacturing is exactly the same process. It's just you don't buy the materials in sheets. It comes in as a desk. The only thing you can't do is make the desk bigger.
Okay.
Because you can only ever cut it. You keep it the same size or make it smaller because you have to cut it down. But the market we're moving into is a demand to make things smaller, not bigger. So from that point of view, it's absolutely perfect.
You're
but
fine.
all we do is we view it as material. So any products that come into us are completely stripped to component level. Desks are not stored as desks. They're stripped into tops, modesty panels, screws, cable ports, legs fittings are all separated, so that when you then need to make something, you just pull the material out.
That's perfect. And that's the whole scope of circular economy anyway, to keep materials in the highest quality possible for as long as possible so they can be used again with minimum effort. And it's all about bringing things up in the waste hierarchy. So you're basically saving furniture from landfill or from incineration, and you're bringing them to such a high state that they can be reused for years to come with all the, the guarantees and all the other kind of security that anyone would need. So yeah, that is fantastic. How do you think that the sector is going to come out of COVID-19 results? So what I want to ask is, how do you see the potential for a green recovery from all of this in your sector or in your business?
I think the potential's great. If you look at conventional furniture manufacturing, the UK moved away from being a manufacturer 15, 20 years ago. What they are is assemblers. There's one or two manufacturers still in the UK, but on the whole, a lot of it is actually they just assemble the component parts which are manufactured elsewhere. And at the lower end, at the contract end, that's predominantly made in China and shipped in containers. And then you actually just assemble it in the UK and fit the parts together and say, there we are. That's going to become increasingly difficult and increasingly less cost effective. The ability to sit down with clients and say, well, hang on, if you buy new, you've got to throw out the old. Throwing out the old has quite a cost. We estimate it's somewhere in the region of about £240 per tonne to get rid of furniture. Now, that doesn't include landfill charges. That is just physically the point that at the moment it's sitting on the floor of a building. Now, whether you dismantle it, take it out of the building and put it in a skip or load it in a van, the cost of getting it to the back door of the building is exactly the same, regardless of what you do with it. If you send it for landfill, that's the most expensive option. So the ability to then turn and say, we have to get rid of it if we buy new, that's a static cost. And then you've got the cost of the new. What we're finding is remanufactured products are typically between 50 and 80% of the cost of a brand new product.
Yeah, that's a reduction.
New products have multiple people making margin on it. If it's made in China, the Chinese factory makes a profit on it. There'll be an exporter from China and there'll be an importer in the UK. They both have to make a margin. It'll then probably come into a wholesaler before it then goes out to the dealer. And then the dealer has to sell it and deliver it. And they generally use outsourced delivery companies who have to make a margin. So a £75 desk, brand new, actually has a manufactured cost of about £11. Everything else that goes into it is 4 or 5 different companies adding margin on. If you look on a localized basis and say, as we're doing, we can remanufacture locally. The product comes off the floor at exactly the same cost as it would be to get rid of it. So then all we do is take it back to our facility, remanufacture it, and deliver it back to the client. Our cost of making the same desk is also about £11 in terms of labour, with no material costs. But we're then making it for £11 and that's it back to the client. So the margin scope is very good for the manufacturers. And for the end user, they actually get a much cheaper way of delivering the project. And also, as more and more public sector clients are being held accountable for their carbon footprint and environmental performance, it makes complete sense to say, how can we reuse that product? And we'll not go into all the carbon footprint savings, but they are substantial.
I think we can all understand,
We did 4 tons of furniture that came out of a client and went back into one of their offices. And with the help that we got from Zero Waste and from Scottish Enterprise to calculate it, there was 15 tons of carbon saving. So not only was it cheaper for the client, there was no waste to landfill, and it saved 15 tons of carbon production.
So basically, you get the benefits all over the place. You have the environmental benefits, you have local production, so that income is returned to the local economy. You have materials that go on and on and on in the local economy instead of just disappearing and then having to use virgin materials. And you have a much more resilient supply chain in this way. When you know what materials are already within your sphere of operation, you know exactly what you're going to be getting at what price, and you can then have set prices on how to sell them and what profit you want to make. So it's really fantastic overall. I don't see what was one challenging thing that you had to overcome in this?
The biggest challenge is perception, which
Okay.
is a remanufactured or reused product. The perception is it will be inferior. It's a cheap, rubbishy second-hand desk. That's been a perception we've had to overcome. When people start to realize that what you're getting back is a newly manufactured product,
Yeah.
that is being guaranteed and warranted to exactly the same standard as the new product that came out of the cardboard box, then it becomes easier. But that takes time for people to accept that. But I think that's common across the circular economy.
It is, yeah.
Reconditioned, refurbished, whatever. Oh, well, it's not as good as new. And what we've had to do is to show people, actually, yes, it is. And because I am regarded as a furniture anorak, and I know everything about furniture, having kind of lived and breathed it for most of my adult life, I can go right down to the detail of the construction of the chipboard and explain to them that a reused product has exactly the same structural capability as a brand new one. It's just cheaper and has not had to use virgin materials. The reality is furniture grade chipboard will last indefinitely unless it becomes wet or burnt. Actually, the core of that is not going to break unless you physically try and break it. So it has a lifetime. It really is 30, 40 years that you can use that product. And we recently completed a project for a government body where the furniture that went in, actually we had supplied new in 2000 into that building and had said to them at that point, whenever they got finished with it, we would take it back, which we did, remanufactured and put it back in again. And we've now said to them that same product, similarly, when they're fed up with it or they've had enough or it needs to change, we will take it back and remanufacture it. And when you look at that as a business model, you're securing your material chain for as long as you're running.
Absolutely.
Because you always get it. It's just there.
If so much more control over your materials, over how they will be used afterwards. And after all, this is one of the biggest problems of any sector, really, that the supply chains are unpredictable, especially when they're global, especially when they depend on so many other things. And by keeping things as local as under of your control as possible, you cut out risk from the equation. So, yeah,
it's
that's
a very sustainable business model, which we've operated the reuse side profitably for 20 years. The manufacturing side for the last 18 months is as profitable. So it's financially sustainable. It creates employment. All you have to do is to get people to accept that a remanufactured product can be exactly the same as a brand new one, but it has a whole lot of added benefits. And often procurement people find that a difficult concept. That's one of the challenges we all have to work on.
Yeah.
It's how we get procurement professionals who will just look at it and say, but it's secondhand. It's not secondhand. It's just reuse material. What you're sitting at is a brand new desk. It was made from materials in exactly the same way a new desk would be. Once we get past that, I think the whole market will shift.
Yeah. So it's a marketing thing for the time being.
It is. It's perception, and it's something that we all have to work on, is to say, look, this is not, we've got to move away from it's just a consumable, throw it away and buy a new one, but actually recognizing it's a value material. Effort went in to make that in the first place. You shouldn't just throw it out because you don't know quite what to do, or you think, oh, it won't be good if I redo it.
Effort and CO2 emissions and so many actors involved. So if you would close this interview with a short message for the local authorities, what would it be?
Open their mind to the possibility of remanufactured product as the mainstay of what they're doing. They have all the resources. The COVID pandemic is going to force the public sector to make changes that they probably would never have thought of making. Offices will have to change. Working practice will have to change. The worst possible scenario is that they look at it and say, this furniture isn't going to work. We have to throw away all our existing furniture and we have to go and buy new furniture because we've now got a new environment we have to create. They don't have to do that. It can be managed and processed that their existing product can be remanufactured to meet the new need. But they have to accept that's a possibility.
Yes.
And not just dismiss it because it doesn't fit in with their procurement rules, which is, oh, we have to have a tender, we have to go out. Actually, they just need to be more flexible. And I think, if anything, the pandemic is going to have to force people to be flexible in their approach and recognize we need new ways of doing things.
And I think that for all of us, it has been quite clear that we're very capable of that. Literally within 3 days, we changed the way that we work. Yep. And that was phenomenal all across the world, you know, not just in a few places. So, so basically, open your minds. Remanufactured furniture are better all across the board. They're better for the local economy. They're better for the environment. They're better for climate change. They're just better overall. So thank you very much, John. We're very lucky to have companies such as yours here. And we're looking forward to see what's next for you guys. And thank you very much for joining us.
So thanks very much indeed. Delighted to talk to you again. And yeah, let's look forward to an exciting future. I think there's plenty of opportunities for small businesses out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure we're going to have another interview with you very soon.
Delighted to chat to you. Thanks very much, Vasil.
Perfect. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.